Vinandasya Dhananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Vallabhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dati Svavanantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vireva Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Hare Krishna. Reading chapter 11 Bhagavad Gita, starting with text number 26. Ami Chatvam Dhritarashtrasya Putra Sarve Sahaiva Vanipala Sanghai Bhishma Drona Sutta Putrastatasau Sahasma Dhiyair Apiyodhamukyai. Okay, so let's start with that. Amichatam Dhritarashtrasya Putra Sarve Sahaiva Vanipala Sanghai Bhishma Drona Sutta Putrastatasau Sahasmadhyayirabhyodhamukyai Amichatam Dhritarashtrasya Putra Sarve Sahaiva Vanipala Sanghai Bhishma Drona Sutta Putrastatasau Sahasmadhyayirabhyodhamukyai Amichatam Dhritarashtrasya Putra Sarve Sahaiva Vanipala Sanghai Bhishma Drona Sutta Putrastatasau Sahasmadhyayirabhyodhamukyai Amichatam Dhritarashtrasya Putra Sarve Sahaiva Vanipala Sanghai Bhishma Drona Sutta Putrastatasau Sahasmadhyayirabhyodhamukyai. Okay, we'll do first word meaning. Vaktrani te Toraramana Vishanti Damshtra Kranani Bhayanakani Kechit Vilagna Dashanatareshu Sandrishyante Churnitair Utman Kai. Word meaning. Ami. These. Cha. Also. Twang. You. Dhritarashtrasya. Of Dhritarashtra. Putra. Sons. Sarve. All. Saha. With. Eva. Indeed. Avani Pala. Of warrior kings. Sanghai. The groups. Bhishma. Bhishmadeva. Drona. Dronacharya. Sutta Putra. Karna. Tata. Also. Sao. That. Saha. With. Asmadhyai. Our. Api. Also. Yodhamukyai. Chiefs among the warriors. Bhaktrani. Oh, sorry, I lost my spot here. Mouse. Te. Your. Twadaramana. Russian. Vishanti. Are entering. Nushtra. Ti. Karalani. Terrible. Bhayanakani. Very fearful. Kechit. Some of them. Vilagnaha. Becoming attached. Dashana antareshu. Between the teeth. Sandrishyante. Are seen. Turnitaihi. With smashed. Uttama anghai. Heads. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jaya. Translation: all the sons of Dhritarashtra, along with their allied kings, and Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and our chief soldiers also, are rushing into your fearful mouths, and some I see trapped with heads smashed between their teeth. Purport: in the previous verse, the Lord promised to show Arjuna things he would be very interested in seeing, like everyone being crushed, like Krishna's mouth. Now Arjuna sees that the leaders of the opposite party, Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and all the sons of Dhritarashtra, and their soldiers, and Arjuna's own soldiers are all being annihilated. This is an indication that after the death of nearly all the persons assembled at Kurukshetra, Arjuna will emerge victorious. It is also mentioned here that Bhishma, who is supposed to be unconquerable, will also be smashed. So also Karna. Not only will the great warriors of the other party like Bhishma be smashed, but some of the great warriors of Arjuna's side also. So Arjuna had expressed in the beginning of chapter 2 his uncertainty about who will come out victorious. So now that the question is being answered here by this vision. I'm going to read the next few verses because I'm scheduled to do so. I think I will go to verse 32. And I will just read the English translations and then the purport to verse 32. As the many waves of the rivers flow into the ocean, so do all these great warriors enter blazing into your mouths. I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths, as moths dash to destruction in a blazing fire. O Vishnu, I see you devouring all people from all sides with your flaming mouths. Covering all the universe with your effulgence, you are manifest with terrible scorching rays. O Lord of Lords, so fierce of form, please tell me who you are. I offer my obeisances unto you. Please be gracious to me. You are the primal Lord. I want to know about you, for I do not know what your mission is. And then last verse, verse number 32, famous verse, Kalosmi Lokshaya Kritpavido. The Supreme Personality of God has said, time I am, the great destroyer of the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people. With the exception of you, the Pandavas, all the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jaya. Although Arjuna knew that Krishna was his friend and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he was puzzled by the various forms exhibited by Krishna. Therefore, he asked further about the actual mission of this devastating force. It is written in the Vedas that the Supreme Truth destroys everything, even the Brahmanas. As stated in the Krota Upanishad, Yasya Brahma Kshatrang Cha Ubhe Bhavata Odanaha Nityur Yasyo Pasechanam Kaita Vedayatrasa. Eventually, all the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and everyone else are devoured like a meal by the Supreme. This form of the Supreme Lord is the all-devouring giant, and here Krishna presents himself in that form of all-devouring time. Except for a few Pandavas, everyone who was present on the battlefield would be devoured by him. Arjuna was not in favor of the fight, and he thought it was better not to fight. Then there would be no frustration. In reply, the Lord is saying that even if he did not fight, every one of them will be destroyed, for that was his plan. If Arjuna stopped fighting, they would die in another way. Death could not be checked, even if he did not fight. In fact, they were already dead. Time is destruction, and all manifestations are to be vanquished by the desire of the Supreme Lord. That is the law of nature. Srila Prabhupada HG.Jaya. So in chapter 10, Krishna has spoken about his opulences. He gave we might say, an audio presentation. But Arjuna was interested in a PowerPoint presentation. In Kali Yuga, people have a very hard time learning this by the hearing process, so they require visuals as well. So Arjuna requested a visual presentation, a PowerPoint if you will. And so Krishna gave him divine eyes by which he can view the PowerPoint presentation in the form of his Vishwarupa, his universal form. So an aspect of that universal form is called as the Kala Rupa, the form of time. This form of time is all-pervading, so he refers to this form, this Kala Rupa, as Vishnu, which means all-pervading. So the Kala Rupa is all-pervading. And this form is terrible. It's fearsome, and it's very scary. Bhayanakanya, I think in one of the verses. It is a cause of great fear. This form of time is a cause of great fear because it is the destroyer of everything that we value and that we are attached to. Is it not? We have this experience. So in this way, seeing this ferocious form, Arjuna has requested Krishna to explain it to him. What is this form? What is his mission? So Krishna has told him straightforwardly that it is the time. It is time, and it has come to destroy everything. Earlier in Arjuna's description here, he has described how, this is according to Baladevi Vibhushana's commentary, that he is seeing all the soldiers rushing into the mouths of the Kala Rupa and being crushed by the fearsome teeth of that Kala Rupa. And then two examples are given to describe two types of persons who are rushing into that form. The first one says here, as the many waves of the rivers flow into the ocean, so do all these great warriors enter blazing into your mouths. So this refers to persons who are unconsciously being moved by the time factor, such as examples would be given such as Bhishma and Drona, who due to the force of circumstances are about to meet with their death on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So this is according to Baladevi Vibhushana, persons who are moving unconsciously without any volition into this fearsome form of the Lord. Then the second example refers to persons who are consciously doing so. I see all people rushing full speed into your mouths, as moths dash to destruction in a blazing fire. Such persons such as Duryodhana, Karna, those who are actually envious of Krishna, they're going with full confidence right into the death, isn't it? So persons are being either unconsciously entering, or they're consciously entering, such as the demons who are averse to Krishna. And of course, both will die, both will perish. So this is the time factor will destroy everything. So I'm sure you've heard this before. The spiritual world is known as Tripad Vibhuti, and the material world is known as Ekapad Vibhuti. You've heard this? 3/4 creation, 1/4. Oftentimes this is described as a spatial relationship, which isn't exactly accurate. What's 1/4 of infinity? 1/4 of infinity is still infinity. So actually Tripad Vibhuti and Ekapad Vibhuti rather refers to the characteristics that define the spiritual and material reality respectively. Sripad Vibhuti refers to 3 qualities that define the spirituality. This is according to Jiva Goswami's Bhagavad Sundar, but if I can remember correctly, the qualities are immortality, fearlessness, and auspiciousness, which basically means ananda or prema. So the spiritual world, Sripad Vibhuti, can be understood by these 3 qualities. It is immortal, it is fearless, it creates fearlessness. The atmosphere is itself fearless, and it is auspicious, which means it's full of loving exchanges. That's the spiritual reality. The material reality is called as Ekapavibhuti because it's defined by 1 quality. What do you think that quality is? Change and close. Anyone else wants to give? Selfishness. Independence. Ignorance. These are all really good adjectives. Actually, mortality. Jiva Goswami says mortality, because within that, all other inauspicious qualities come up, isn't it? Within the mortal realm, you have change, you have envy, which is a quality of the mode of material nature, the mode of ignorance, etc. Things aren't immortal, then things aren't fearless, then things aren't auspicious. So the material world is aptly defined by 1 quality only, Ekapavibhuti, which is mortality. So everyone has to meet with death, and it is time factor which is actually bringing this inauspiciousness to those in the material world who do not agree to serve Godhead. It is this time factor that is actually the culprit. In the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, you have the 13th chapter. I think the chapter is entitled Dhritarashtra Quits Home. And in that chapter, Yudhishthira Maharaj is expressing great distress because Vidura, not Dhritarashtra, Yudhishthira Maharaj is expressing great distress, mental distress was there because Vidura and Dhritarashtra have left home in the middle of the night. And he was considering himself their protector. And they were also dear ones to him. You can understand how great a soul Yudhishthira Maharaj is, that he still considered Dhritarashtra dear to him, even after all he had done. Of course, Vidura was a beloved uncle. But they both left in the middle of the night for attaining perfection and self-realization. Yudhishthira Maharaj is greatly distressed by this, thinking, who will give them protection? So being bewildered, Narada Muni appears on the scene, because he's really good at that. He appears like right when you need him. Throughout the Bhagavatam, he tends to make his appearance at very auspicious times, when the devotees are in great confusion, bewildered by misconception. So there, Narada Muni, he employs various methods to educate his disciples. With Vyasadeva, he chastises. But King Barhishat, he told a story, an allegory. With the, who is the sons of Barhishat? Not the sons of Barhishat. They're not the Prachetas. The sons in the 6th canto coming up, I forget their name. Halyashras and Shalyashras. Then he employed a riddle to educate them, etc. Narada Muni was very expert in giving the message. So with Yudhishthira Maharaj, he began to chastise him because he could take the sauce. Many of us can't take it, so they have to tell stories. That's the only way we show any interest. The spiritual master gave us the sauce, we're ready to quit. Anyway, so he directly chastises Yudhishthira Maharaj, explaining to him, how will you be the protector of your father and your uncles? How will you be the protector? Because this is where his distress was coming, thinking, who will protect them? If I won't be there to protect them, then who will guard them? So in so many verses, Narada Muni is chastising him, how will you protect? And in one particular verse, he says, Kala karma gunadhina dehoyam pancha bhotikai katam anyantu gopayat sarpa grasto yataparam. He tells Yudhishthira Maharaj that this body, pancha bhotika refers to the material body. This body is already under the control of 3 factors, kala, karma, and guna. Understand? Kala, karma, guna, adina. This body, deha, this body and mind, which you would use to protect others, isn't it? How you would protect others? You would require a body to do so, isn't it? Or extension of the body in form of firearms or whatever you were planning to use, isn't it? You need a body to protect others in this material world. So then Narada Muni says that this body Panchabhotika is already under the control of three powerful agents, time, karma, and guna. And time is the chief culprit of the three. Therefore, Prabhupada's comment, he calls time as the Kala Sarpa, the cobra snake of time. Because I remember there's a picture on National Geographic of like a really cute bird, maybe a sparrow, I don't know, like maybe it was small, it was really cute. And it was facing this way and the snake's mouth was like this. It was a famous picture on National Geographic. And the bird was completely oblivious, you know, like he was just like looking very peaceful. And this snake was just about to devour him. So also, such is our situation in this material world. We're very oblivious to the factors that are actually controlling us because of their subtle nature. All living entities in this material world are moving under the direction of the modes of material nature, isn't it? The modes of material nature, as Krishna says, direct the movements of all the jivas in this world. So Prabhupada comments in his purport that if you're in the lower modes of passion and ignorance, then you cannot even see things as they are. So what is the question of doing anything good for anyone? And if you're in the mode of goodness, then there's some chance you might do something good, but then Kala is there to see to the frustration of even that good program, because it destroys everything. Furthermore, the modes of material nature move around the jiva according to his karma. So we're not in control of the movements of the modes of material nature, as we tend to think that we are, but rather the modes of material nature move around the consciousness of the jiva according to the influence of karma, his beginningless impressions of desire and hate. And it's the time factor that sets the whole thing into motion. You follow? So it's just like this, maybe for a visual, you know this kaleidoscope? Yeah. Kaleidoscope is and then you turn it, and it creates all these shapes, and it's like really pretty. Some of them are like, oh, that's really pretty. And some of them are, oh, this okay. And you keep turning, and it keeps creating different shapes. So you can think of those colors as the modes of material nature. And they're moving due to the force of time. And the types of shapes the kaleidoscope takes is according to the karma of the jiva. And the jiva, if you can imagine, like a jiva is just like a tiny speck, and he's just being swept away by this whole process. So therefore, and if you're going to give protection to others, Narada Muni is arguing this verse, then you have to have a swarup that transcends time, karma, and guna. Otherwise, there would be no way for you to offer any protection to anyone. You understand? So also Arjuna, he admits his own ignorance in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Karpanya Dushoparata Swabhava. He says, I am suffering from miserly weakness, karpanya. Karpanya refers to not understanding the spiritual substratum of existence. In other words, identifying with the material body. So as a result of that lack of understanding of the spiritual substratum of existence, then he is thinking that I can offer protection to these persons on the other side of the battlefield. At least by my non-participation in the affair, then I'll be able to offer some auspicious situation. So Krishna has now removed that illusion. Nah, everyone's going to die. You can participate or you cannot participate, but everyone's going to die. Because this is the nature of the material plane. It's characterized by mortality. So everyone would have to meet with death, and there is no one who can do anything about it unless they have a swarup that transcends kala, guna, and karma. And since the Supreme Lord is the only one with such a swarup, unless he decides to do something about it, then nothing can actually be done. And as far as Krishna has shown to Arjuna here, he's not deciding to do anything about it. So everyone will actually indeed die. So it is not actually possible for the living entity to live without death. Generally, that is the tendency of the conditioned animation, to try to live without death, isn't it? We're all trying to live without dying. So we make all sorts of fancy arrangements to avoid death. But actually this is not possible. Krishna has demonstrated this by this revelation that he's given to Arjuna. So as devotees who are on the progressive road of bhakti, the tendency also is to try to live without death. That's the tendency because we're also conditioned souls. Unless you got bhava already, then you're right. But if you don't have bhava yet, then we're also conditioned. So the tendency is to live without death. But actually, a devotee who is interested in attaining the beautiful services of Krishna, attaining the plane of divine service, then he cannot maintain a mentality of trying to live without death. An expression that I've been appreciating recently, it's one of Hegel's. He said that one should die to live. Death referring to the death of the self-serving egoistic tendency which traps the living entity in the material world. So if one wants to live in the plane of divine service, service means agreeing to be used as a tool for the higher plane. Service doesn't just mean, for example, we should not just conceive of service solely as doing the actions of bhakti, such as singing for Krishna, then I'm doing service. That may not be the case. In America, they have a very popular kirtan culture, and there's no question of devotional service in that regard. It's mostly a central affair, if you've ever been to any of them. You know, everyone's like, you know, I'm going to do a full demonstration, but it's quite, it has nothing to do with service to Godhead. At best, it may be service to humanity, but not with service to Godhead. So similarly, a person may be practicing meditation, such as the yogis and so on, and they may also meditate on Vishnu to do so, because in order for their sadhanas to be successful, some element of Vishnu Bhakti must be there. Krishna is described as in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, text 61. But they do so for attaining peace of mind, by which they can focus on the intrinsic nature of the self and attain samadhi. So that is also not service to Godhead. So service cannot be conceived of just the actions of bhakti, but it has to be sharanagati plus the actions of bhakti. Sharanagati or seva means agreeing to be used as a tool according to the whims of the Lord. In the material world, if someone is whimsical, that is not a quality that is very much appreciated, isn't it? Because we're not independent. Therefore, if someone acts whimsically, that means someone else has to suffer the consequences. They're not doing their duty, etc. So we don't feel comfortable with persons who are whimsical. Is it the case? Am I saying a true thing? You feel comfortable when you see whimsical people? You like whimsical? Of course, we ourselves are whimsical sometimes, but that's all right. But when we see others, that's really really disturbs our mind like anything, isn't it? So, but Krishna can be whimsical as such, because he's the independent Supreme Lord. He can do whatever he likes. That's a fact. So one has to get comfortable with that notion that God can act according to his whim also. Means that if he wants to send you to hell also, he has the right to do so. Do you feel comfortable with that at the present moment of consciousness? Not too comfortable, right? So this is seva. Seva means when you are agreeing to be used as an instrument for the whims of the Lord. One has to become satisfied with that. So that whatever the Lord wants us to do, then the answer is yes. Like this. So in order to come to that state of serving ego, the serving ego, then there has to be death to the material ego. Because it is a material ego that obstructs or creates encumbrance in our service to Godhead, isn't it? So in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is afflicted by the self-serving ego. And this is expressed as his unwillingness to fight in the war. Because, as I've mentioned many times before, the persons on the other side of the battlefield are integral to his own self-identity. And therefore, to kill them would mean to kill a part of himself. So basically what happens is the conditioned soul, we just extend our ego to accommodate various things. And those things which we accommodate within our egoistic conception of self is called mine. Mm-hmm. So that which is mine, in fact, many times we define ourselves by what is mine, isn't it? Just like my brother, my mother. And this way we often define ourselves in terms of what's mine, or I'm an artist, so you have some particular ability, so you define yourself in terms of that ability, isn't it? So think about the many ways you define yourself is usually by what is yours, isn't it? So then to depart from what is yours is, in a sense, to lose a part of yourself. So it's very uncomfortable, it's very, in some cases it can be very painful. For example, someone can tell me what is it that they aspire for in a material sense, maybe someone young. As you get older, you start to lose hope. That is the blessing of old age. It's all useless affair anyway. But when you're young, youth is very intoxicating. Actually, youth is very intoxicating. The senses are still potent, so we're usually easily beguiled by sensual perception. So we have a lot of hopes and dreams and all these things in our illusion. So anyone wants to share? Someone young, you can share it. What is some aspiration, something that's very important for you?
Take the microphone.
Oh yeah, you can take them. I'll repeat it also. Something quick, anything you can say. What do you want to be when you grow up here?
That's money, rich.
You want to be rich?
Of course.
Okay, that's okay. That's probably not gonna happen with the demoniac governments on the rise and so on. Something that you practical that you wanted to be before joining the Hare Krishna movement. Let's say some aspiration before joining the Hare Krishna movement. I'm sure we had some, right? Okay, maybe I'll give myself as an example. I was trained as a dancer, as a ballet dancer. So I was going to be like a dancer. I was going to be the next Black Baryshnikov though. That was my aspiration. But then in my service to Krishna, I had to make a decision between dance and Krishna consciousness at a certain point. At least I felt that way at the time. And so dance was so integral to my self-identity at the time, as it is still now in certain ways, but especially at that time. And so to have to depart from dance was very crucial moment in my life. I remember also, not only was I a dancer, but I was also a chess player. I used to study chess 10 hours a day and participate in many heavy tournaments and so on. And I remember after I joined the Hare Krishna movement, I went to New York Ratha Yatra. And at the Ratha Yatra, the Ratha Yatra is at a chess park that I used to regularly go to before I was a devotee. So the Ratha Yatra was here, Washington Square Park, and the chess park was over here. And I knew it, so I remember walking, I was like in the middle between Ratha Yatra and the chess park, and I had this existential crisis. Because I used to gamble chess also, so gambling was not allowed, you know. That was like the hardest thing for me to give up, because I wasn't doing other things. I was like, chess. And so I got stuck in this existential crisis between choosing chess and choosing Lord Jagannath. And I was like, which one is it going to be? Arguably, it's not that big of a deal. I can go play chess and come back, right? What's the big deal? But somehow the way where I was at in my consciousness, it was like an existential crisis. Am I going to choose chess or am I going to choose Lord Jagannath? So finally I decided to choose Lord Jagannath. I was like, I miss you, chess, but this is for my life, you know, for my eternal well-being. At least I hear like that from Srila Prabhupada, so I take it to be true. So I chose Lord Jagannath, at least for the time being. And I didn't see a chessboard for a decade after that. I saw one 2 years ago for the first time for a decade, and I was bewildered. Anyways, the point is that being a chess player was integral to my self-identity. So then to be asked to depart with something integral to your self-identity is like losing a part of yourself. It's like death, you understand? So all genuine processes of yoga involve an ego-effacing process. Ego death, they often refer to as ego death, such as the case with Sharanagati. So one has to die to live. So the tendency is to try to live without death. That is a tendency. That's the point that I'm trying to develop here. The tendency is to live without death, but if we want to live in the realm of divine service, then there has to be death, actually. The price for full freedom is death, actually. Death to the self-aggrandizing ego. And then from there, the agreement to be used as a tool for Krishna's seva. So here, we'll hear the next couple of verses that Krishna has demonstrated that actually everyone will have to die anyway. And then, although he is the time factor serves as the efficient cause for the death of all these entities, he will tell Arjuna, but you can be an instrument in the next couple of verses. Isn't it? Famous verses there, is it not? Next verse, is it? Call us the verse?
32.
Yeah, 33. Nimitta matram bhavya savya sachin. So you can choose to be an instrument of, and engaged by the higher plane for divine service, or else you can just die without profit whatsoever. There's a nice saying, Prabhupada used to use it a lot, it's of Chanaka Pandit. I forget the Sanskrit. Or Chanaka Pandit says that in this world, everyone will have to lose their wealth and their body, their life. Therefore, before such loss takes place, then you should dedicate it to some good cause, and that way gain eternal benefit. It says anyway you will have to lose it. You're struggling to fight with it, struggling to keep your life. Anyway you will lose it. So instead of fighting for that, better to dedicate it to some higher cause, and that way gain eternal benefit. There are a couple of places where Srila Prabhupada uses this in the Srimad Bhagavatam. First place is with Didichi, when he's asked by the demigods to give up his body. Another place is in the Vamana Lila, where Shukracharya is preaching to Bali not to give Vaman Devi in one step, but even give one step also. Even that one step, he'll take everything. So then, that time, Bali Maharaj offers an argument that anyway, as time factor, the Lord will certainly take everything from me. So now, such an auspicious opportunity came, where the Lord is coming right before me, I can just offer it to Him and give eternal benefit. So why be so foolish as not to give it? Since now He's kindly come before me in such beautiful form. The Kala Rupa is terrible, it's fearsome. When Arjuna sees it, if we see it, we would die right on the spot. No question of living. Just like there is such a thing as being scared to death. And if you saw the Kala Rupa, you would die. And then the life air would just jump out of the body. Seriously, this is because of Arjuna's transcendence, he didn't get scared to death, but we would definitely die seeing the Kala Rupa. It's a terrible form. But Vaman, such beautiful form is there, He's come. And He's given me opportunity to give everything with benefit. Therefore, why be so foolish as not to give it when He will come in a scary form and take everything by force? So in this way, Srila Prabhupada quotes this statement of Chanaka Pandit. Said, since everything will be lost in this world, including one's own life, then better to dedicate it to some higher cause. Of course, the most noble cause is the cause of Krishna consciousness. So Krishna, by giving this revelation to Arjuna, is giving him the opportunity to see that you should not live without death, but rather you should die. And die, and that too, dying, being used as a tool of, or that death allowing you to be used as a tool of divine service, getting you interest into the spiritual reality. In this way, this revelation is very important for devotees to meditate upon, because our tendency is to try to live without death. But the time factor, by meditating on time, we can understand this is not actually possible. So in this way, we can approach our death courageously, with a strong heart, and in that way, get opportunity to be used by Krishna for His own purposes. Are there any questions about this? I did my very best. Yeah. Hare Krishna.
So this,
Please.
Microphone is there.
so Prabhu, you defined this saranagati to accept the whims of the Lord. So on our level, does it come through whimsical behavior of the devotees, or the whimsicality in the world?
I think you would have a hard time with that. Devotees are acting whimsically and saying this is the Lord. I think you might have a hard time digesting that. Generally, the whims of the Lord means, of course, instruction of the Lord is coming through sadhu and guru, generally. That means those Vaishnavas, that guru, in whom you're placing faith as agents of divinity, then you will take it that what they're speaking is actually Krishna speaking through them. Means that when you see sadhu, Vaishnava, guru, when you have faith in, then you're seeing the delegation of Krishna through him. And sometimes an instruction may be one that you cannot always fully understand. And in that time you may feel that the guru is being whimsical. And of course you're welcome to inquire as to why this particular service. That's maybe the extra benefit of having a guru you can speak to, and well, why are you giving this type of instruction? But the conclusion has to always be the same, which is yes, which is the hard part. So once one places faith in sadhu guru, then he sees the delegation of Krishna coming through that entity. This is the agent of divinity to help me progress towards the absolute. And therefore, it may sometimes appear that such a personality is speaking whimsically from our vantage point of material consciousness. At which time we are, of course, free to inquire as to the nature of the instruction. But the conclusion has to still be the same. If we are to be progressive, the conclusion has to be yes. which is sometimes instruction may be one which is seen as departing from certain very important attachments in our life. And at that time it becomes quite difficult and tremendous. So therein such an opportunity to advance is made avail to us, and also an opportunity to be unprogressive is in that moment. Just like there's a famous story with Mother Jamuna, I think Gargamuni, perhaps a few others, where Prabhupada, apparently he was in Delhi, and one man wanted him to do one program in Delhi. Prabhupada said, I can't, I don't have time. But this man was very enthusiastic, so Prabhupada asked Mother Jamuna, Gargamuni, a few others were there, to get off the train and see what can be done. Now this first time in India, you don't know what's what, no money, no facility, and Prabhupada saying get off and see what can be done. Now if you try to tell that to a modern disciple, I think Guru Maharaj, where's the money, where's the contact information, who I'm supposed to meet, I'll figure it out, like that Krishna will help you. I don't know if we would gel with that so much, but such was their surrender that the answer was yes. Perhaps we could ask those questions, we may not be having the profoundness of faith that these personalities had. They were quite extraordinary, by which there was some power to spread the Hare Krishna movement. But, so we may inquire, but the conclusion still has to be the same. They didn't have any questions this thing, they just got off the train. Okay, Srila Prabhupada, yes, no problem. We may go through a process of inquiry, but the conclusion has to be the same if we are to be progressive. If we are to progress our spirit of self-sacrificing, sharanagati, self-abnegation and self-surrender to the intense degree, nothing for me, everything for the center, for Krishna. Then even if we have to go through the process of inquiry to get there, that's okay, but the conclusion has to be the same. So it's that conclusion that is hard to digest. It is that conclusion that we find this experience of death, if you will, this experience of ego death. That conclusion is where you find that experience. And so it's very challenging. And many times we're not able to meet the challenge. But if we are sincere, plenty of opportunities will be given. And then at one point you have to say yes. If we're to progress. Otherwise there's no question of seva, it's just sense gratification. And it just looks like seva. Unless we are agreeing to be used by the higher plane, by the agents of divinity, which includes Vaishnavas and includes Guru. Unless we agree to be used by them, then we cannot call this service to Godhead. It's just sense gratification.
In the mode of goodness.
Just a little addition to that.
Maybe not. And mode of goodness, when you do bhakti, bhakti is transcendental. And mode of goodness, passion, ignorance refers to the mentality of the individual. So someone can be doing the angas of bhakti in goodness, passion, or ignorance, according to their mentality. You sometimes worship Krishna so you can get the strength to kill someone. That's the mode of ignorance. You worship Krishna so you can get something out of it in terms of material benefit. That is a mode of passion. And when you worship Krishna so you can be purified, that is a mode of goodness. And that is still considered within the realm of separate interest. Even the mode of goodness. So even we have to depart from such tendency. And our tendency has to be for the sinner. Just like a devotee was asking me yesterday, do we preach so we can benefit others? And I said, no. We preach to please Krishna. Everything is for the satisfaction of Krishna. And if people happen to be transformed, that's just an inconsequential side effect of our endeavor to please Krishna. So when we go into the program, let's say like a preaching program, we do not go into it with the purpose of helping people become transformed. That is a contamination of the mode of goodness. But we're going in to satisfy the absolute truth because he wants us speaking his glories, so we are speaking his glories. Karmane vadikadaste, ma karma palesha kadachana, this verse is there. We have the right to serve Krishna, we don't care for the fruit. Someone who's transformed, wonderful. Someone who's not transformed, wonderful. Godhead was served. that is, and then it's so much that the natural effect of hearing Krishna is people's hearts become transformed. So we need not go into that situation with separate interests of trying to transform their heart. We just speak Krishna's glories powerfully, enthusiastically, with realization coming from our heart, people will become transformed. Just like sometimes you do a kirtan, just like I was hearing, one devotee wanted to commit suicide. So he came to one of Andrew Prabhu's kirtans, and after hearing that kirtan, he gave up such idea. of committing suicide. Then got his son and then back together, got his mind back under control, and so on. Now, I don't think Andrew was consciously aware. Okay, let me sing this. That okay, he wants to commit suicide. So let me sing so that he was trying to satisfy the personality of Godhead, and that devotee happened to be within the purview of that sound vibration that was meant to please Krishna, and his heart was transformed. So our interest is always for the sinner, it's not for anyone else. Hegel also said this, that reality is by itself and for itself.
Is what?
By itself and for itself. So by itself means it's independent, completely independent, swarat. And for itself means exactly that. It's for itself, it's not for anyone else, not for us, not for our family members, not for anyone but the sinner, but Krishna. And the nature of that consciousness is that actually anyone who meets such a person becomes impacted, generally, without the devotee consciously endeavoring to do so, as such. That is pure devotional consciousness in which we're to approach our life. So we're not, maybe not there yet, but in our attitude in Sharanagati is to develop this mentality. This is what is natural for perfected souls. This is a saying that I like. It's coming from Sanatana Goswami's Brihadbhagavatam Rita. He says, Siddhasya yat swarupam sadhakasya tat sadhana. What is natural for the siddha is exercise for the sadhaka. So natural for the siddha is to do everything for Krishna's pleasure. He cannot but think of Krishna's pleasure. That is our exercise, because we think of many other things also. And then we have to self-abnegate, leave aside all those other considerations and then choose this one. That is our exercise. So just like you, Cultivate. So just like you work out, if you want big muscles, I tried that many times, but not successfully. My body type didn't allow, luckily. So you want to get big muscles, you have to work out to gain the fitness, isn't it? The strength to lift heavier things. So also we have to gain the fitness, if you will, the fitness of our heart. So this is our heart exercise. They have cardio also, that's a different meaning of heart. But the actual heart exercise for sadhakas is the struggle between our separate interests and working for the center. And every time we choose working for the center, we gain strength of heart. And with that strength of heart, we are to progress in devotional service. I saw a statement the other day that I appreciated, that heart is strongest that beats and responds to noble ideals. So the heart is strongest that beats and responds to noble ideals. So the most noble ideals is the pleasure of Krishna. And so for those who have such an ideal and their heart is actually beating according to that ideal, then they will have strength in their sadhana and they will approach the absolute reality in no time. But to the degree we are having our heart is beating according to some other ideas, the reason why Rupa Goswami, he says that we enter into bhakti by Shraddha in the BRS. So Shraddha is the beginning entry point into bhakti. Shraddha means that faith in that high ideal, everything for the pleasure of Krishna. Shraddha Shabde Vishwashra Kai Sajudinishchoy, this famous verse. So this is Shraddha, that's that noble ideal. But that noble ideal may be contaminated by a tendency for bhukti and mukti. So therefore, Rupa Goswami goes on to describe the necessity for becoming free from bhukti and mukti in order to make that heart strong in its movement towards the absolute. Otherwise, that heart is susceptible to contamination. And we are to take help from the sadhus in order to do so. So like this. Hare Krishna.
So actually my original comment was going to be on your example of Jamuna Devi and Gargamuni. That spirit of pioneering is something that's missing a lot because everything is ready-made for all of you. We didn't have any temples, we didn't have any drinking water, we didn't have any medical attention or anything. We didn't have a place to stay. So this pioneering spirit was so incredible, and it was because Prabhupada had that pioneering spirit, and it was very infectious. And I remember a lecture that Borijan Prabhu gave not so long ago, He said, the world is a very big place. Take a piece, just a piece, and make that your project, to make that, spread your Krishna consciousness in however way that you can, in such a way. Keep that pioneering spirit, otherwise that keeps very low. That kind of preaching that you have to do just to keep yourself going, because otherwise you can't think of Krishna at all. You just think of your own needs and so on and so forth. And just even simple things like giving a class. Krishna says, of all my devotees, my favorite devotee is the devotee who preaches to my devotees. So that's also very, very helpful. That's why we have association, and that's why Prabhupada built the temples, for association with each other, as well as to give sadhu association for those coming in from the outside. And we are, God help us, we are the sadhus. So we have to come up to the mark.
Thank you for that. That in the comment, I feel that in our movement I heard that it's grown 4 times since the departure of Srila Prabhupada, which is like unprecedented for a religious institution.
Yeah.
And that means that we have a lot of people joining Krishna consciousness. And I often tend to think, I feel that this is a sacrifice that is now required in this time period. It's taking care of all these devotees that are now coming up. The projects are many and they're expanding, and that is of course wonderful. But I feel like every devotee is also a project, and we have quite a few projects that are neglected. And so I feel like this, because it is quite a bit of, because these projects are ongoing. You're helping such projects go through stages, Bhajana Kriya, Narjana Vritti, and to take care of such projects is quite tremendous, and it requires a lot of sacrificing. One has to actually depart from his separate interests in order to take care of such projects. So I really appreciate that you added that point from Bhagavad Gita. I feel like now, because everything is in place, this is a sacrifice for our generation that we would have to make to actually properly see to it that we're carrying and coming up to getting educated. I mean, everything's been put in place for us. Now we need to take that time out to improve. Thank you for that. Apply. Anyone else wants to inquire?
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for your scholarly approach and realization. My question is concerning Dadichi, because you said that actually the goal is to become Nimitta Matra, an instrument in Krishna's hand to do his will. In the case of Dadichi, Indra approached him to ask for his body to kill Vritasura, who is a great devotee, Chitraketu, and he had already had an encounter before with Indra. He knew, he forbade him to teach, the Brahma-vidya. So how can you explain that he gave his body, and was that really to please Krishna?
Yeah, the demigods of course came to the Dishi on the order of Vishnu, and they presented that to the Dishi, that this is the order of Vishnu. So the Dishi responded to that by saying, even if Vishnu is asking, who can give up their body? So when you see the commentaries, the demigods have presented the order of Vishnu to the Dishi. That's when it's hardest to accept. Now, if God personally comes, no problem, I'll do whatever he wants, obviously. But when an agent of God comes, that's when it becomes hard to digest. They're saying that God wants you to do this. Who are you to think, you're so presumptuous, Who are you to say that you're an agent of God, like this? So, the Dishi, of course, was kind of playing with them, at least according to the commentators. He understood that this was the desire of the Dishi, of Vishnu, and the demigods presented that. That's when it's hardest to digest. When the instruction is coming through an agent of divinity, not through Krishna himself. Of course, we only speculate. We think that if Krishna would ask us, we would say yes. But therefore, the Dishi says, even if Vishnu asks, we are not prepared to give. Also, Vritrasura, although we know him to be a devotee because we have heard, if you would actually see Vritrasura, I don't think you would be so convinced. Vritrasura was killing devotees. Devatas, but they're mixed devotees. Now I'm sure this Krishna Balaram Mandir we got at least a few mixed devotees. You know, if not vast majority. Now suppose Vijayasura walked up over the Krishna Balaram Mandir, picked up some of these mixed devotees, eating them, throwing them to his mouth, stepping on them, then I don't know if we would be so convinced he was a great devotee of the Lord. Actually, only when the Dichi began speaking could Indra make out, oh my God, this is a great personality. And then Vijayasura, when he began speaking and preaching to Indra, then he could make out that this is a great personality. Otherwise, his senses actually deceived him. They thought this was a demon. I mean, it was clear. He's killing demigods. He looks like a demon. Look at that red copper hair. Come on, you know, this is a demon. So he gave his body because it was an order of Vishnu. Vishnu had his purposes in that arrangement to bring Vijayasura back home, back to Godhead, and also to allow Indra to get his sense gratification. So Krishna is very clever. He satisfies many desires at once. Hare Krishna. Is there anything else anyone would like to say? There's a few minutes left, 2, 3 minutes. No? Okay then, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jaya.
We have different, roles, somebody is decorating, somebody is making flowers, somebody is
It depends on how they want to serve. Of course, they're doing Sankirtan and spiritual.
We don't have to have
So, even through your Buddhist tradition, you will gradually, as your heart becomes more and more charmed by Krishna Lila, then it will become, you will become aware of how you were attracted to Krishna and what type of service most charms your heart. At that time, you can understand that your Krishna will reciprocate with such a desire. So there's no book distribution in the spiritual world. Yeah, there's no book distribution in the spiritual, but through your book distribution, you'll come to realize what type of service.
maybe that's very slowly.
Yeah, it's very. Maybe sometimes you will like times. Don't worry. Once it starts, there's no stop.
Yeah. I was feeling very hesitant because it was very new for question.
No, it's not. That's not true. That's a question. Jai Jagannath. Sometimes I sing. My voice was got out of shape today. There was no one to do it, so I had to step out. I tried to get out of it. I was like, I can't see, it's too hoarse. Krishna Balaram had to humble me, so I was humble, no problem.
Are you getting any opportunity to dance?
If you saw me on Holy, I was wild in the afternoon shift. All those men that were there, I literally was pushing them away. I said, move, I want to dance for Krishna. That was rebel rousing, you know? They were just rebel rousing. Just acting, I said, move, I'm going to dance. And then they got back in, I was like, all right, I got to share space. But I started kicking my legs here and there, and then everyone just got out of the way. It's like, he's going to kick us, you know? I was like fully gone in the afternoon time until like kirtan. Yeah, I had a good chance.
I like dancing too, it's fun.
That's enjoyable. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
May we ask you?
Srila Ramanuja Swami. 12 years now. I just read the book. I just read, like the first 8 years of my Christian consciousness, I was just reading Prabhupada's books, you know, over and over and over and over and over. When I first joined, I was reading 6 hours a day for 2 years. And then after that, it oscillated between 2 hours, 1 hour, like that for many years together. And then like after the 8th year, I think 8th or 9th year, all these commentaries started coming out by Bhanu Swami and so on. So I used to read Prabhupada's books with those commentaries side by side.
and just try to understand it. When I didn't understand something, I wouldn't inquire from my superiors. Some of them are Christian. Mostly Bhanu, Srila Bhanu Swami.
Did you study with Gopi Paranadana?
No, I'm just at this VHE. They're doing a Sanskrit course for 1 year, so I'm there now. Just because I wanted to be able to read some of the teachings from the acharyas to improve my understanding of Gaudiya theology. I'm not putting that much energy for that though, because since I've been here, like I was mentioning in class that every devotee is a project. So I've been spending most of my time in the ashram with a lot of devotees who just trying to give encouragement. And like the other day I was with one young man, and he asked some questions and we were together for 3 hours straight, you know. Yeah, and then I go upstairs and we started off actually one devotee, he was from Russia, he was on the party, and he was having so many issues, and somehow he was coming to me by chance. I said, there's only one solution to this, Harikatha. So we started reading Bhagavatam together, and then just continued. So now we have like a little, from like 2 to 4. Yeah, upstairs we just read together. Right now we're doing nectar devotion. So I do that for a couple of hours. So like my schedule is like super tight. Like I wake up, I chant my rounds, and then at 4:30 I go for deity Sevanai for a couple of hours. And I do a Bhagavad Gita class for devotees in Chicago, that's where I serve. Then I come downstairs for the shift, you know, in the Bhagavatam class and to 10 o'clock, and then I have an hour and a half, and then I got Sanskrit class to 1:30, and then at 2 o'clock I meet the boys for 2 hours, and I come...
In Chicago?
Yeah, and no, I live in Chicago, yeah. And then after that I come downstairs for the 4 to 7 shift with the devotees. And then at 7 o'clock, 7:30 I get home. And then 8 o'clock I try to go to sleep. So yeah, I wanted to spend more time with the Sanskrit, but it's just like, I've given that less importance.
Yes, he's going to start another group in July. So if you miss the first group, you start the second group.
That's right.
Okay, you have some other questions?
Maybe.
I was just appreciating the
So you're living in Chicago, how long you are in Vrindavan?
Until July.
Until July. You will not be able to get the Sanskrit course?
No, I'm already in the course now.
You're not attending every day?
Oh, I'm attending every day, but I'm not putting that much energy for it. If I have a...
Introduction.
Yeah.
You're taking it as an introduction.
Yeah, like...
You will pass the exam and everything.
I will take this. I've been taking the tests. I've been doing okay with them. You know, not horrible. Not where I would like to do.
You're going until July.
Until July, yeah.
And then the second part, you will come back next year?
Yeah, hopefully. I will come back more to be in Vrindavan. I want
You don't know when?
probably Kartik time. Yeah.
And stay in a few months or just...
I don't know yet. Probably at least 6 months. I've been here since October. So I probably will stay at least 6 months. I'm thinking like to do like that 6 months here, 6 months in America. I just turned 30, so I told my authorities, I said, I'm going to shift gears now. I've been doing the same thing in Mumbai, so now I'm going to kind of shift gears.
What is the shift gear? Living in Vrindavan more?
Yeah, just putting more time towards my internal development and spending time with devotees. What I told the authorities, I said I have some gifts in the area of, I have a really good memory. Right now it's going down, but... And I said I could help out in helping out with like educating devotees in Krishna consciousness. So instead, I'm not so interested to go out and bring the newcomers. Let them come as they will. But so many already come and there's like terribly neglected.
I wanted that.
That's true. Like I
condensed
totally agree
milk.
with you on that.
Yeah.
Condensed milk.
Yeah, and then also because most of my understanding of Krishna consciousness is coming from my guru. So I feel, you know, my spirit, a lot of it is coming from that direction.
Your guru?
Ayendra Prabhu.
Ayendra.
Yeah, because I took a lot of inspiration from the way he preached to us.
Did you do the Advasandala with Satyanarayana?
They will accept
Did you study with others?
No, not so far, yeah.
You have studied only by yourself?
Yes.
Not with anybody, no devotees at all. You just study by yourself?
Yeah, I mean, of course there are always devotees. When I'm confused about a certain passage, I mouth. and
But I enjoy is no more there. So who
Yeah.
are you approaching when you have a doubt?
the doubts haven't been many, but there are a few devotees that I have some faith in.
Like the doubt, who are you going to? Radha Govinda Swami?
I don't have any major doubts on philosophical issues so far. If I do, the Manu Swami's there.
Manu
That's
Swami.
true.
Matu has to go to Srinath.
Yeah, me it's an email, no need to go.
Answering to email.
Email. I send it through my authorities, and then and a few others are there as well. If I ever get confused about
You want to
it.
share some of your news? Interesting. So one class in the Bhagavatam class, one time you said that you didn't feel satisfied somewhere, there was something lacking in your life or in your heart.
I don't remember. Many times in the classes, I just ask questions to make it interesting. You know, to just participate, to have some lifelong exchange. Yeah, because that's one level of questioning, is just to churn the topics and to bring out more of the realization of the devotee. Like Parashimar is a Mahabhaga, so he already knows everything, but he's still inquiring from Shukadeva Goswami. So the level of inquiry is just for relishing the topics or making some deeper realization out of the individual. Oftentimes, according to the question, the revelation is coming
From the speaker.
from the speaker, or even from the shastras, depending on the types of questions you're asking, the shastra reciprocates accordingly. So sometimes the speaker may have taken one angle of vision, and by the question, some other revelation may be inspired to him from the Lord.
You don't remember asking that?
I remember asking something. My discomfort. I felt like I don't remember exactly how I expressed it, but I remember my discomfort being with how we were defining. I forget. I want to say success. My question was concerning the need that our inner life is telling us that there's something lacking, and therefore we need to approach higher level sangha in order to evolve our inner life. But then at the time of needing to do so, we are met with letting go of certain attachments on the lower plane. And that's very difficult for us. So how does the devotee process that experience? And I gave the example, I think, of a Guru Kulis, where they may have grown up with all their friends, they're not serious, but then when one of them decides to get serious, then they're met with this dilemma of needing to depart from some of their friendships so they can actually make progress. So how does one process this experience? Especially when they're feeling that their inner life is telling them they need to do something more. Just like like Prabhupada said, you don't need a certificate to know when you're getting advanced. So also you don't need a certificate to know when you're not doing good. Your inner life is telling you a lot. And so when we're doing that, we realize that there's a need for improvement. How do we process the need to let go of certain things? That was kind of my question at the time. It was misunderstood probably by everyone, so I had to re-explain it in another way. So that,
I was listening on the radio.
Yeah.
I was thinking, the answer was like hitting another.
Yeah, and then because of that answer, everyone started saying, why do you see that you're better than others? I was